In the idyllic suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia, the Harper family home gleamed like a postcard from the American dream. A neatly trimmed lawn, a classic white picket fence, and framed photos of smiling faces lining the mantel. But beneath this polished exterior, Emily Harper, the eldest daughter, grew up in a household where love and validation were unevenly distributed. Her parents, Richard and Linda Harper, ruled their domestic kingdom with a clear hierarchy, placing Emily's younger brother, Caleb, on a pedestal as the golden child who could do no wrong. Emily, at 32, was the responsible one, the one expected to set the example. Her achievements often dismissed as mere duty. When Caleb wrecked his skateboard at 12, he was gifted a shiny new one. When Emily aced her exams, it was simply expected. Emily, you need to understand, Caleb's more sensitive, her mother would say whenever Emily questioned the blatant favoritism. You're naturally resilient. From a young age, Emily learned to rely on herself. While her peers in high school partied and rebelled, she worked late shifts at a local diner, stashing away every dollar for a future beyond the Harper household. Her determination paid off when she earned a full scholarship to study graphic design at Savannah College of Art and Design. Her parents' response was tepid at best. That's nice, Emily, but is it practical? Caleb's thinking about business school. The words stung, but Emily pressed on, excelling in college, winning awards for her portfolio, and landing competitive internships that paved the way for a thriving career. Meanwhile, Caleb's path was a series of stumbles. He dropped out of 3 colleges, each time with a flimsier excuse, and each time bailed out by their parents' dwindling retirement savings. Emily watched as Richard and Linda poured money into Caleb's failed ventures, a taco truck that folded in 4 months, a game-changing fitness app that never launched, and a real estate flipping scheme that crashed spectacularly. Yet, no matter how many times Caleb faltered, he remained the apple of their parents' eyes. Emily's life took a brighter turn when she met Daniel Carter, a 34-year-old architecture student. During a collaborative project at SCAD, Daniel was everything her family wasn't: supportive, encouraging, and genuinely proud of her successes. They fell in love, married in a small ceremony in Savannah at 25, and welcomed their son, Noah, now 7 years old. The Harpers attended the wedding with forced smiles, and Caleb didn't show up at all, claiming a last-minute emergency. Emily and Daniel built a life rooted in mutual respect, creating the family Emily had always craved. Noah's arrival brought a joy she never thought possible, and for a moment, it seemed her parents took an interest in her life, doting on their grandson in a way they never had with her. But tragedy struck 3 years ago. When Emily was 29, Daniel was killed in a construction site collapse due to a preventable structural failure. The loss shattered Emily's carefully constructed world. Grief threatened to consume her. But Noah, then just 4, needed her. She threw herself into her graphic design business, working grueling hours to provide stability while becoming both mother and father to her son. Her parents offered minimal support, occasional babysitting or half-hearted holiday invites, while funneling their energy and resources into Caleb's latest schemes. Emily maintained a fragile relationship with them for Noah's sake, wanting him to know his grandparents, though their love always felt conditional, tinged with expectations she couldn't quite name. Family gatherings grew increasingly tense. While Noah played obliviously with his toys, Emily overheard whispers about Caleb's next big thing. She saw her parents age under the strain of supporting their now 28-year-old son. Their faces lined with worry as their savings dwindled. At last year's Thanksgiving, as they scrubbed dishes side by side, Richard suggested, "You could help Caleb out. You know, your business is doing well." Emily kept her voice steady. "Dad, I'm a single mom running a small studio. I'm not a bank." Richard's response was sharp. "Family helps family. Emily, you've always been so selfish with your success." She swallowed the hurt, as she had countless times, for Noah's sake, forcing a smile through the tension. Then, on a stormy Tuesday afternoon in April, Caleb showed up unannounced at Emily's home office in Decatur. Noah was at school, and Emily was racing against a deadline for a major client. "Caleb, dressed in a flashy designer jacket he clearly couldn't afford. Flashed a wide grin. "Emily, my favorite sister," he exclaimed. Arms outstretched. "I'm your only sister," she replied dryly, gesturing toward the kitchen. "Coffee? I've got 15 minutes before my next call." Caleb followed, chatting about the weather, a new Marvel movie, and no soccer games. But Emily sensed the familiar build-up. Her brother never visited without an agenda. Sure enough, over coffee at her kitchen island, Caleb launched into his pitch. "I've got a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I wanted you to hear it first before I take it to my investors." He leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "Crypto's the future. And I've got inside info on a coin called True Vault. It's gonna triple in value in 6 months. Maybe sooner." For the next 20 minutes, he spun a tale of guaranteed riches, showing her charts and projections that looked like they'd been cobbled together in a hurry. "I just need startup capital, $25 should do it," he said, sliding his phone across the counter. Emily nearly choked. $25? Caleb, that's insane. She pushed back, explaining she didn't have that kind of money to spare as a single mom with a mortgage and a business to run. Caleb's tone shifted from enthusiastic to defensive. "It's an investment, not a handout. I'll pay you back with interest, $40 in 6 months. Guaranteed." Emily pressed him. "And if it flops like your taco truck? Or that app?" His face darkened. "This is different. I've done my research. These guys are legit. And they're only taking a select few investors." When she asked for details about these guys, Caleb's vague talk of crypto pioneers only deepened her skepticism. That night, after Caleb left, promising to send more details, Emily dug into True Vault. Her research confirmed her fears: anonymous founders, hyped up promises, and red flags of a classic Ponzi scheme. The next day, Caleb called relentlessly until she picked up. "You in?" he asked, skipping pleasantries. "I'm sorry, Caleb, but I can't," she said firmly. "Everything about True Vault screams scam. You should walk away." What followed was a barrage of accusations. She was selfish, jealous, sabotaging his success. When guilt didn't work, he turned to threats. "Fine. I'm telling mom and dad you're refusing to help family when you've got the means. You've always been their letdown." Emily stood her ground. "I'm a single mom with a kid to raise. Daniel's life insurance is in No's college fund. I'm not gambling $25 on your latest pipe dream." Caleb hung up without a word. The fallout was swift. That evening, her phone rang. It was Linda, her voice thick with disappointment. "Emily, how could you turn your back on your brother?" Richard chimed in. "We've always known you were envious of Caleb. But to block his shot at success? That's low." Over the next week, the calls intensified, each one more accusatory. Emily offered to help Caleb research legitimate investments, but her suggestions were ignored. The final call came exactly 7 days after Caleb's visit. Richard's voice was icy. "Your mother and I are backing Caleb ourselves. We're taking a second mortgage on the house because that's what family does. We support each other. You've chosen to abandon your duty to this family. Emily, there will be consequences. You'll learn your lesson." The line went dead, leaving Emily staring at her phone. Stunned, she dismissed the threat as another attempt at emotional manipulation, a tactic her parents had used her whole life. She refocused on her work and Noah, unaware that their consequences would target the one person she'd do anything to protect, her innocent 7-year-old son. The world seemed to tilt on its axis the moment Emily Harper realized her son, Noah, was missing from school. It was a crisp September afternoon in Decatur, Georgia, and the dismissal bell at No's elementary school had rung 20 minutes earlier. Emily stood frozen on the sidewalk, her phone clutched tightly, her heart hammering as the playground emptied and the crossing guard packed up. Mrs. Harper, No's teacher, Miss Clara Thompson, approached, her brow furrowed with concern. "Is everything okay?" "Noah was picked up early today." Emily's stomach dropped. "Picked up? By who?" Clara hesitated, confused. "Your parents. They had the family pickup authorization you filed at the start of the year. They mentioned a family emergency." The words hit like a sucker punch. Emily hadn't spoken to her parents, Richard and Linda Harper, since their heated argument over her refusal to lend her brother Caleb $25 for his shady cryptocurrency scheme. True Vault. Why would they take Noah without telling her? Her hands trembled as she dialed their numbers. Richard. Linda. Even Caleb. Voicemail. 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 Panic clawed at her chest as she sped home, praying Noah would be there. Safe. The house was empty. Calls to neighbors, hospitals, and family friends yielded nothing. By dusk, Emily was organizing a search with neighbors and preparing to call the police when her phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. Hello, is this Emily Harper? A calm male voice asked. This is Father James from St. Michael's Church. I believe I have your son here. The 12-minute drive to the church felt like an eternity. Each red light a torment. Emily burst through the church doors to find Noah, her 7-year-old, sitting in a small office, clutching a mug of hot chocolate. A kind priest and a volunteer by his side. Mommy, Noah cried, running into her arms. Tears streamed down Emily's face as she held him, checking for injuries. Are you okay, baby? Are you hurt? Noah's voice was small, trembling. I'm okay, but Grandma and Grandpa said you didn't want me anymore. They said you chose money over family and I had to stay here until you learned your lesson. The room spun. Father James explained that Richard and Linda had left Noah on the church steps with a backpack containing a change of clothes and a note claiming he needed temporary shelter, while Emily sorted her priorities. The priest, sensing something was off, had coaxed Emily's contact information from Noah. When the police arrived, Officer Sarah Mitchell took their statements, her face hardening as Emily recounted the True Vault dispute and her parents' cryptic threat of consequences. So, they took your son from school and abandoned him at a church to punish you for not funding your brother's scheme? Sarah clarified, her pen hovering over her notepad. The stark reality of their actions hit Emily like a freight train. This wasn't just a family spat, it was a calculated, cruel act against her child. That night, after the police left with promises to follow up, Emily sat on Noah's bed, surrounded by his stuffed dinosaurs, trying to soothe his confusion. Mommy, why did Grandma and Grandpa leave me? Did I do something bad? His wide, fearful eyes broke her heart. No, baby, you did nothing wrong, she whispered, stroking his hair. They made a terrible choice because of grown-up problems. But it's not your fault. Noah woke 3 times that night, screaming from nightmares of being left alone again. Each cry fueled Emily's rage. How dare they use her son as a pawn in their twisted game? The next morning, a social worker, Lisa Reynolds, arrived to assess Noah's well-being. We understand you're the victim here, Mrs. Harper, Lisa assured her, but we have protocols for child abandonment cases. Emily's best friend, Jessica Moore, showed up unprompted with groceries and offered to watch Noah while Emily dealt with the authorities. This is unhinged, Jessica said, slicing tomatoes for lunch. Have they lost their minds? Emily scrolled through her phone, discovering she'd been blocked by her parents, Caleb, and several relatives on social media. They've cut me off and are probably spreading lies about me. She sighed. Jessica squeezed her shoulder. What do you need? A lawyer, Emily replied, and a therapist for Noah. By the end of the week, Emily had hired Karen Sullivan, a family law attorney, and scheduled Noah with Dr. Nathan Brooks, a child psychologist recommended by the school. The financial strain was immediate, legal fees and therapy costs ate into her savings, but the emotional toll was heavier. Noah clung to her, terrified to go to school or let her out of his sight. Yet, amidst the chaos, unexpected support emerged. Noah's school community rallied. Clara organized a meal train. The principal added security for pickups. And parents offered playdates. Emily's clients, too, showed compassion, granting deadline extensions when she explained the crisis. Take care of your boy. Her biggest client emailed. The work can wait. The decision to press charges against her parents weighed heavily. In Karen's office, surrounded by certificates and children's drawings, Emily hesitated over the paperwork. Once we file, there's no going back, Karen warned. Child abandonment is serious. They could face jail time. Emily's voice was steady. But her heart wasn't. They left my 7-year-old at a church and told him I didn't want him. They traumatized him to punish me. Still, signing felt like severing a lifeline to the parents she'd once hoped would change. What would you do? She asked Karen. The attorney removed her glasses. In 15 years, I've never seen a child heal by ignoring trauma. You're doing this for Noah. Emily signed. Noah's therapy became their anchor. Dr. Brooks noted Noah's progress, using toy figures to process his abandonment. He's expressing his fears through play, which is a good sign, he told Emily, but Noah's nightmares persisted, and school mornings were tearful battles. Meanwhile, the charges sparked a family firestorm. Cousins she'd grown up with sent hateful texts, accusing her of tearing the family apart. Her Aunt Margaret left a voicemail calling her vindictive. The silence from others stung just as much. Then, an unexpected ally emerged. Richard's estranged sister, Aunt Ellen, called out of the blue. I heard what happened. Emily, you're doing the right thing. Over coffee, Ellen revealed a familiar pattern. Richard had been the golden child in their family. 2. Draining their parents' savings while Ellen was left to fend for herself. I cut contact when they gave Richard money for a car but refused to help with my daughter's medical bills. Ellen said, breaking the cycle is hard. But it's worth it. Her words steadied Emily for the storm ahead. The first court appearance was surreal. Seeing her parents in the courtroom, looking older and smaller, felt like a dream. Richard stared ahead, unyielding. Linda avoided her gaze. The priest's statement about finding Noah on the church steps was read aloud. And the Harpers pleaded not guilty, their lawyer claiming they'd left Noah in a safe haven due to Emily's personal crisis. A lie. Outside, Caleb ambushed her in the parking lot. Happy now? Mom and Dad could go to jail because you're too selfish to help family. Emily's voice shook with fury. They abandoned my son. Caleb, don't you dare make this about money. He sneered. They mortgaged their house for me because you wouldn't help. Now they might lose everything. The revelation that her parents had gone through with the second mortgage hit hard. But Emily refused to take the blame. Weeks later, a news alert changed everything. True Vault crypto scam busted. Investors lose $15 million. Emily's hands shook as she read about the Ponzi scheme's collapse, with federal agents arresting its masterminds. Karen called immediately. The FBI wants to talk. Caleb's name came up in their investigation, not as a victim, but as a recruiter. Agent David Carter visited the next day, confirming Caleb had been a mid-level operative, earning commissions by luring investors, including his own family. The $25 he wanted from you would have bumped him to a higher tier. David explained. Emily's heart sank. Caleb hadn't just been scammed, he'd scammed others, including their parents, who'd mortgaged their home for his lies. Soon after, Karen delivered more news. Your parents' house is in foreclosure. They missed multiple mortgage payments. The money they'd given Caleb had evaporated in True Vault's collapse. Then, one evening, Richard appeared at Emily's door, looking haggard. Noah was at a playdate, thankfully absent. The bank's taking the house. Richard admitted. Your mother's with your cousin Laura. We need help. Emily. The audacity stunned her. You left my son at a church and told him I didn't want him. He has nightmares because of you. And now you want my help? Richard called it a mistake. But Emily snapped. A mistake is forgetting a pickup time. You emotionally abused my child. When Noah returned and saw his grandfather, he froze, backing into Jessica. Grandpa, he whispered, fear in his eyes. Emily's resolve hardened. Dad, you need to leave. An anonymous email arrived that night. Subject line. Your brother knew. Attached were emails showing Caleb's correspondence with True Vault's founders, discussing recruitment and commissions. One line chilled her. My parents are good for $100. Still working on my sister, she's skeptical. Emily forwarded the evidence to Karen, who urged her to send it to the FBI. Torn, Emily decided to confront her family first, arranging a meeting in Karen's office for safety. Richard and Linda arrived, looking worn. Caleb strutted in, feigning confidence. Emily displayed the emails. Caleb wasn't just an investor, he recruited victims, including you, she told her parents. Linda gasped, reading the line about their house. Richard blustered. This is fake, but a digital forensics expert had verified the email's authenticity. Caleb's facade crumbled. I was in over my head with gambling debts, he admitted. True vaults seemed like a way out. The confession stunned Richard and Linda, who'd believed Caleb's promises of riches. We gave you everything, Richard said, voice breaking. Emily laid out her terms for any future relationship. No unsupervised contact with Noah. Mandatory family therapy, a formal apology, and FBI cooperation. Richard scoffed, refusing to sign. Linda hesitated but followed him out. Caleb, left alone, admitted, I messed up. I'd like help with treatment. Days later, the FBI escorted him away for questioning. 6 months later, Emily and Noah moved into a new home in Decatur. A fresh start close enough to keep Noah's school and friends. Caleb avoided jail by cooperating with the FBI, receiving 5 years probation, addiction treatment, and community service. Richard and Linda lost their house but found an apartment with Laura's help. Linda sent Noah a simple birthday card, a tentative step toward reconciliation, while Richard remained distant, pride blocking his path. Noah's therapy showed progress. He was learning to set boundaries and express fears. Emily's business thrived, and she hired an assistant. Finding balance, Jessica and her husband became Noah's legal guardians, solidifying their chosen family. As they sat on their new porch, watching fireflies, Noah asked, Mom, can people change? Emily hugged him. With time and effort, buddy. But we've changed, we're stronger. And we know who our real family is. Their journey wasn't over, but Emily had learned that boundaries weren't punishment, they were protection. True family, she realized, was built on unconditional love, not blood, and that was the legacy she'd give Noah.